Welcome to Reread. Today I'm going to go through Timothy Zahn's book, Choices of One. What does that mean? Well, it means several things to different characters. They always say, have you heard the phrase, choices of one? Okay, I get it. You've said the title over and over again. This, in my opinion, is Timothy Zahn's worst book, and I have lots of reasons why. First off, there is literally a 10-page scene where the stormtroopers from Allegiance are back with Mara Jade. They are the most uninteresting stormtroopers and characters ever. Especially created by Timothy Zahn. I know he wants you to love them. Maybe the clone commandos are doing really good for Karen Travis, and Timothy Zahn goes, I'll do that, but with stormtroopers. But unfortunately, none of the characters are memorable. None of them are memorable. None of them are likable. None of them are relatable. You really don't care about them. There is a 10-minute scene. 10-page scene where they're bartering with someone. There's a argument between a merchant and a customer. He bought a knife and it broke, and he wants double his money back. And while the stormtroopers come in and say, "Hey, what seems to be the problem here?" And I think it's the customer goes, "This doesn't concern you." To which the stormtrooper says, "Justice concerns everyone." Wrote that down. That's what he said. But guess what? The whole purpose of this 10-page dialogue fracas here is that the merchant, after they've resolved the issue and he's given the money back, not double the amount because that's unfair, the merchant gives them a free knife, which of course the stormtrooper is going to use to defeat the villain in the end. But it still wasn't worth the 10 pages that they put to build that up. They talk about how well, Luke is told there's an Imperial agent out there with a lightsaber and she's a girl. And that Timothy Zahn thought that putting Mara Jade and Luke in such close quarters in an adventure like this was really dumb. It's almost like willingly contradicting your own storyline. Mara Jade first meets Luke in Heir to the Empire. She knows who Luke is. In fact, in this one, she knows his name is Skywalker, and she doesn't realize it's the same. He works for the rebellion too. And then she thinks at the end, was that the same Skywalker that blew up the Death Star that the Emperor's been looking for? You didn't even think about that? Like, she even sees Luke a couple of times. She goes, look at that young kid. But Timothy Zahn said in Allegiance, he alluded that Luke is actually older than Mara. Mara's 18 years old is what we're told in Allegiance. And I mean, Luke could be too, so they could be the same age. But Mara's not the older one. But she keeps referring to Luke as the young kid and everything. I don't know, maybe she doesn't see herself as young, but that seems almost like a contradiction too. And that she's met him before, or she's seen him before. They've been on an adventure before. That Luke knows of her. He never actually gets to see her. But at the same time, he knows that he hears her voice. She helps him out during one of the battles. It's awful. There's no point for Mara Jade and the stormtroopers at all. They're trying to uncover a dirty governor. It turns out the governor isn't dirty. He's just trying to make a deal with the rebellion because the people who have his wife and kid are forcing him to do that. In fact, the rebel involved, I don't have his name here. I thought I wrote it down. Axel or whatever. Who's kind of leading this rebel mission. He turns out to be the traitor because he's the one that kidnapped the kids and forced him to do this for his own means. Everyone's in on their own. There's another separate story where Lord Odo has visited Paleon's ship, and Commander Paleon, he's not captain yet, is basically trying to figure out what the deal is with Lord Odo. And something's not right. He's trying to figure it out. That is good stuff. That is probably the only good thing in this book is Paleon's story, which sadly is brought up at the very beginning and not resolved to the very end until Thrawn comes in at the very end and says, you know who that is? That's the warlord Nuso Esfa. And you're like, oh, because there's this warlord that's want to cause a panic because he wants to encroach upon Imperial space and start taking over planets. He's big over in wild space. He kind of wants to make a move in on the Imperial's galaxy, and Thrawn knows this and tells Thrawn's at the very beginning and I think at the very end. I mean, he's somewhere in the middle too with his story, and he tells the Emperor that there's this threat in the outer galaxy, and I guess the Emperor believes him because Darth Vader and all his Star Destroyers show up. He goes, good job, Thrawn. He's like, way to go, Vader. It's almost like they high-five each other through hyperspace. That doesn't happen, but it's like they've been working as a team this whole time. I don't know. Nothing about this feels right. This is this is the actual cover. A lot of people look at this and go, I don't remember that cover. That was on the original hardback. I know they've redone the cover since then, but it's an awful cover. I guess because the guy, whoever designed the cover, said, well, you know what? Timothy Zahn didn't care about the story here, so I don't care about making a cover. The cover looks awful too. So it earns the title of one of the worst covers in the EU, and definitely one of the worst books. I don't know if I'd go as much to say it's in the top 10, because I've seen some real big stinkers. But Choices of One has a fighting chance. It would definitely be in the top 20. There's some Han, Luke, and Leia stuff in there. Han's upset that he's not being, informed about what all is going on missions. But General Riken reminds him, you're not technically part of the Rebel Alliance, so we can't really give you all this intel. To which, at the end of it, Han decides to join the Rebel Alliance, and he becomes Lieutenant Solo, which is mentioned nowhere. I don't know. Maybe it is mentioned later on. I just don't realize it. But I don't know. The whole thing just feels so bad and pointless. Like I said, having Mara in the hand. And by the way, she loses those stormtroopers to Thrawn at the end. Thrawn knows they are the deserters from the last book because he's Thrawn, so he knows they're Captain Ozzel's deserters, and he decides to give them a job working for him. Why? Because Zahn realized he can't have the Hand of Judgment, or whatever their name is, with Mara, because he did write a comic book a long time ago that doesn't even mention those stormtroopers. So he's got to write out a way to get them off, to get them off out of Mara's command, I guess. She officially commands them, but at the same time they're kind of their own thing. It's really weird how the relationship is between them. But it feels like that was thrown in, and at last minute, because it's the last thing we hear about. Man, from top to bottom, what a mess. What a mess Choices of One is. I know I said a long time ago that I thought Scoundrels was the worst, but no, Choices of One, by far the worst one. Totally pointless. I mean, whenever an author's trying to contradict something that books that they've already written, it's just mind-boggling. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would that? I mean, I know why the publisher wanted to do this, because it had Timothy Zahn's name on it. But Choices of One, in my opinion, the worst one he ever wrote. All right, folks, that's it for now. See you next time.